Salam sejahtera dan bersama saya Rizal Zulkafli dan ini Niaga Awani. Kita mulakan dengan perkembangan laporan terkini. Ini hari ini akan berlangsung sambungan pendengaran rayuan bekas Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak terhadap sabitan dan hukuman penjara bagi dakwaan penyelewengan RM42 juta dana SRC International Sendirian Berhad di Mahkamah Rayuan Putrajaya. Dan untuk melihat perkembangan berkenaan, kita bersama wartawan Astro Awani Firdaus Azil yang kini berada di Putrajaya. Teruskan Firdaus.
Okey, baik, terima kasih Rizal di Bukit Jalil. Sepatutnya hari ini memasuki minggu ketiga dan juga minggu terakhir kalau mengikut jadual mengenai prosiding rayuan bekas Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak, yang mana bagaimanapun kita difahamkan berkemungkinan ada kemungkinan bahawa prosiding ini akan dilanjutkan memandangkan pihak pendakwa masih belum menutup kes kerana mereka masih ada beberapa lagi hujah balas yang perlu dikemukakan terhadap apa juga yang telah dibangkitkan oleh pihak pembelaan dalam 2 minggu lepas. Bagaimanapun kalau boleh saya nak memberi highlight sedikit apakah yang telah terjadi pada minggu lepas, di mana salah seorang peguam bela Datuk Seri Najib iaitu Muhammad Farhan Reid mengatakan ataupun berhujah bahawa anak guamnya tidak boleh didakwa di bawah Seksyen 23/1 Akta Suruhanjaya Pencegahan Rasuah Malaysia SPRM kerana mengatakan bahawa sebarang aktiviti ataupun aktiviti gratification ataupun penyelewengan dana perlu dilakukan serta-merta dan juga mempunyai niat yang jelas. Bagaimanapun Timbalan Pendakwa Raya Datuk V. Sitambaram berhujah bahawa penyertaan Datuk Seri Najib dalam mewujudkan SRC International juga termasuk penyertaan aktif beliau dalam 2 mesyuarat kabinet bagi mendapatkan jaminan kerajaan untuk membolehkan SRC International memperoleh pinjaman daripada KUAP sebanyak RM4 bilion menunjukkan bahawa ada plot ataupun sequence dalam perbuatan untuk menyeleweng untuk kepentingan sendiri ataupun personal benefit, yang mana Datuk Sitambaram mengatakan bahawa kronologi yang menunjukkan bagaimana permulaan SRC pada Januari 4, 2011, kelulusan pinjaman daripada KUAP pada Julai 19, 2011, kelulusan jaminan kerajaan oleh mesyuarat kabinet pada 17 Ogos 2011 dan juga kelulusan kedua jaminan kerajaan untuk mendapatkan pinjaman kedua daripada KUAP pada 2012. Kesemua ini menurut Datuk Sitambaram hanya memerlukan 14 bulan sahaja, sekaligus ia menunjukkan ada niat ataupun ada plot yang untuk menyeleweng dana bagi kepentingan sendiri sebagaimana telah disabitkan ke atas bekas Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Najib oleh Hakim Mahkamah Tinggi tahun lepas. Dan juga bagaimanapun sekarang ini kita difahamkan bahawa pembicaraan ataupun prosiding rayuan telah pun bermula. Sebarang kemas kini akan saya berikan untuk buletin-buletin seterusnya, Rizal.
Terima kasih Firdaus Azim yang berada di Putrajaya untuk perkembangan tersebut. Kita akan teruskan laporan seterusnya. Seterusnya, saham di pasaran Asia Pasifik didagang bercampur dalam dagangan Isnin dengan pelabur memerhatikan saham Alibaba di Hong Kong. Terkini, Ant Group nafi laporan Reuters yang Jack Ma akan meninggalkan syarikat itu dan menyifatkannya tidak berasas dan tidak benar. Sementara itu, Bursa Malaysia dijangka meneruskan momentum semasa minggu ini dengan indeks utama bergerak dalam jajaran kecil di tengah sentimen pasaran yang berhati-hati. Menurut ahli ekonomi Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad Adam Muhammad Rahim yang dipetik bernama, indeks FBM KLCI berkemungkinan berlegar antara 1,600 dan 1,615 mata minggu ini.
Tambahnya, pelabur dijangka perhatikan kemajuan program vaksinasi dan lonjakan kes COVID-19 di dalam negara. Pada Ahad, lebih 2,190 kes baru dilaporkan. Di luar negara, Adam berkata tidak banyak acara penting berlaku minggu ini kecuali mesyuarat Bank Pusat Eropah yang akan berlangsung pada 22 April. Ini dijangka mampu memberikan sedikit panduan terhadap pembelian bond dalam bergerak ke hadapan. Di dalam negara, Malaysia dijangka umum kadar inflasi Jumaat ini. Menurut Adam, negara kemungkinan mencatatkan pertumbuhan tahun ke tahun yang lebih kukuh untuk bulan Mac berbanding pertumbuhan 0.1% pada bulan Februari.
Dan sementara itu, ringgit dijangka didagang pada paras semasa minggu ini. Ini di tengah sentimen pasaran yang bercampur dipengaruhi perkembangan luaran dan kebimbangan terhadap peningkatan kes COVID-19. Menurut laporan bernama, antara cabaran bergerak ke hadapan adalah data ekonomi Amerika yang dijangka lebih kukuh dan akan lonjakan hasil bond Amerika. Ini mampu merencatkan sentimen kenaikan ringgit. Seterusnya, kontrak niaga harapan minyak sawit mentah di Bursa Malaysia Derivatif berkemungkinan naik lebih tinggi pada minggu ini. Ini selepas dirangsang pengukuhan harga minyak kacang soya.
Menurut peniaga minyak sawit David Ng, MSM tempatan dijangka diniaga dalam lingkungan RM3,600 dari rintangan pada harga RM3,850 minggu ini. Sementara itu, Palm Oil Analytics berkata ekspor 1 hingga 20 April akan lebih tinggi tetapi pada kadar peningkatan yang perlahan. Data bulanan minyak sawit MPOB yang dikeluarkan pada Isnin lepas menunjukkan stok MSM terus menunjukkan trend peningkatan menjelang Mac 2021. Secara keseluruhan, jumlah stok minyak sawit menokok 10.72% kepada 1.45 juta tan daripada 1.31 juta tan sebelumnya. Dari Jumaat lepas, kontrak niaga harapan MSM adalah lebih tinggi dengan Mei 2021 meningkat kepada RM4,191 satu tan. Sementara itu, Jun 2021 meningkat kepada RM3,922 satu tan dan Julai 2021 naik kepada RM3,716.
Dan kita ingin membincangkan berkenaan dengan faktor yang akan pengaruhi pasaran minggu ini bersama dengan Stephen Ines, Ketua Strategi Pasaran Global XC. Stephen, thank you for joining us. This week we have the announcements of the US rate book, US crude oil inventories and many economic data from the UK. What will investors focus on this week?
It's an interesting week because we're entering the so-called blackout period for the FOMC, and this really leaves markets to their own volitions. In other words, they don't have that backstop from the central bank in the U.S. to remind them if the data gets stronger that the Feds are going to continue to keep rates lower. And this is one thing that the market continues to really bask in right now. I think that seems to be the change point in the market's purview. Markets were really concerned with rising yields in the U.S. The yields were arguably going up very, very quickly. Now that volatility seems to abate, but now the pivot is sort of falling back on this undercurrent of global, how should I say, geopolitical risks. It's not towards China right now, but we'll get focus on Russia, also got focus on Middle East tensions and Iran. So it's almost three branches of geopolitical risks that are sort of emanating right now. And this is starting to weigh on sentiment a little bit, especially with a lot of COVID concerns from the new variant coming on shore again.
And Stephen, let's talk about what you mentioned earlier. The US President Joe Biden and also Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga presents a united front against China during Suga's visit to Washington on Friday. Do you foresee further geopolitical tensions arising from this? You mentioned a bit over there, but could you please zoom in and explain to us how will perhaps investors react to this?
Yeah, there's two obvious forks in that right now. One is actually human rights issues in China, which is one factor, and the other factor is Taiwan security issues and sovereignty issues. And this is a major, major issue right now. I don't think it's going to lead to anything other than a lot of political talking and a lot of sanctions and what have you. And that's sort of a problem right now, because the last thing the market really needs is when the economy moves into the political realm, it can be a little bit disjointed. We saw how disjointed politics can interfere with markets when President Trump was in power, and now it looks like politics are going to continue. Look, this seems to be battle lines getting drawn, and I think it's not necessarily battle lines getting drawn around security issues and also human rights issue. I think this is a sort of a cause and effect issue of the battle lines getting drawn around technology. I think this is at the heart of the issue. I think both the U.S. and China are on, loggerheads right now to compete for technology space, especially around internet. And I think these other branches that are forking off right now are just side effects of this new war that's starting to build around technology.
And China's economy grew by 18.3% in the first quarter of 2021, year on year. But, it slowed down to 0.6% against the fourth quarter of 2020. Retail sales and industrial production grew by 34.2% and 14.1% respectively in March. What do you make of those numbers?
Interesting, if we're pegging a blueprint back to China's recovery, which arguably came out of COVID a lot better than any other country, it says the base effects are quite real, but it also suggests the big after the big pent up demand happens, the reality check sets in that the economies aren't recovering so quickly. I think what this is suggesting to me is what the Feds are telling us right now, that yes, we're quite aware that we're going to have 3 months of huge optimistic moonshot economic data coming out of the U.S., which is quite typical of this seasonality effect. But the battle, the amount of risk that actually is on the tail end of this recovery towards the end of summer is really where the proof in the pudding is going to happen. And I think this is starting to reflect in markets a little bit. And I think it's going to continue to reflect in markets a little bit, especially as we're reaching these lofty peaks where positioning is quite extensive. People will be looking for more economic proof. This is a worrying aspect because, how stronger can the economies possibly get? My view here is downside risks will continue to mount as we go through the summer.
And global COVID-19 cases have surpassed the 3 million mark. Cases have surpassed the 140 million mark. Global COVID-19 deaths have surpassed the 3 million mark. Cases have surpassed the 140 million mark. This year is supposed to be the year for recovery. Do you foresee headwinds moving forward brought forth by COVID-19?
Yeah, I think the variants are the biggest headwinds, and along with the slow vaccine rollouts. Arguably, some countries have done quite well with all hands on deck. For instance, Israel, United Kingdom, and the U.S. sort of leading the charge right now, but the rest of the world very slow. Europe is on a catch-up pace. By reports, that's coming around quite well, but Asia lagging quite badly, and this is a problem given the population densities in Asia and how many people are really congregated around big cities. This continues to be a worry that these new variants can come in and wreak havoc. I think, just anecdotal up here in Thailand, we thought we had cleared it, then all of a sudden we had a spread from a couple of local bars in Bangkok that seemed to have spread all over the country again. Look, it's not a massive spread. Governments will be forced to take action very quickly by locking down, but this seems to be a regular occurrence now that we continue to lock down all the time. And it has everybody looking over their shoulder saying, okay, when is this going to stop? And this is a real problem. People can't plan their vacations. Tourist centers like in Malaysia, in Canada, or in Thailand, they can't plan vacations. And this is a huge problem for a lot of big segments of the local industries.
I know you mentioned the variants, but will the suspension of the Johnson & Johnson's vaccines maybe hurt the recovery process as well?
100%, because these vaccines were very portable. They didn't need the intense refrigeration situation. So that pushback to me is a big factor, and that could actually slow down significantly the move to herd immunity. Look, if we ever get towards that move, I'm just using that as a catchphrase because that's the overall end game objective. But it seems like herd immunity is still well off on the horizon in a lot of parts of the world right now.
Okay. And COVID-19 cases in Malaysia have consistently increased in the past few days. Are investors worried?
Yeah, of course they are. That's the biggest problem. And, this is why we're starting to see a little bit of lagging in the currency markets because investors are actually taking money out because those bets that they put on for the grand reopening aren't really working out. So they want to put their money into other areas of the market that maybe even safe haven. I think at these lofty levels, I think we're going to see investors take a very, very cautious turn right now. One, because COVID isn't really diminishing in a lot of parts of the world, but also the fact we've reached such a peak in the economic levels right now. People are asking themselves, how much further can this go? So I think we're going to be in for some headwinds over the next few months.
On that note, thank you very much, Stephen Ines, Ketua Strategi Pasaran Global Axis. Aksi membincangkan berkenaan dengan unjuran pasaran. Tadi Stephen Ines, Ketua Strategi Pasaran Global Axis bersama kita menerusi Skype dari Bangkok. Kita akan berhenti berehat seketika, kembali selepas ini.